So pretty much what I do is small business lending, commercial, consumer, pretty much anything, any type of lending that you need, I would be the person that you can contact. And if I'm not the one that can help you, I can get you in touch with the person that can help you. In your gift bags, I have put my information in there. We provided you a little journal. I've got anything from business accounts to personal accounts, credit cards, merchant services. I guess all of y'all are business owners. So we do also provide merchant services, and I put the person's contact information in there if that's something you would like to talk to him about. Our bank has been in Lawrence.
As United Community Bank since 2016.
Palmetto Banks.
Yeah, 130 years.
Yeah. So we've been in Lawrence County for a long time. Enjoyed the community activities, and we are here for you guys. So if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call, or Candy. Candy lives here in Lawrence, and I think probably a lot of people know who she is, but I'm getting to know people in Lawrence, so that's been fun, and trying to come to the events that are here and get to know people. But if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. I have a brochure in there and a business card. Anything you want to add?
No? Thanks for having us this morning.
Yes, thank y'all for inviting us.
To help.
Any questions?
Y'all enjoy?
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for what y'all do.
Thank you for all you do.
All right, we're going to just keep rolling and dive right in. I know we have a tremendous amount to hear from Billy, and I don't know that which title to even introduce him with because he wears so many hats. So Billy Dunlap is going to talk to us about marketing this morning. Billy has been in Lawrence County for, I'm not even going to try to give you how many years. I know that many years ago, I helped with Go Lawrence and sold ads. It was a great learning experience, again, many years ago. So there's a very long relationship here with Billy in Lawrence County, and the knowledge that he has working through his Go Lawrence, Go Clinton media outlet, but then also he is currently is this the correct title? Yes. Chief Tourism Development Officer for One Spartanburg. So he is just such a wealth of knowledge, and I really hate that he has to talk to y'all for an hour because I want to take him. I've got so many questions, so we're going to do lunch sometime soon. But he's been doing this, a little over a year, right at a year maybe? And so I hope you all are familiar with One Spartanburg. They have totally got it going on, and it's one of those things that we are very envious of, and it comes up a tremendous amount of times in different meetings, how Spartanburg has just really come together and making great things happen. So it's one that we aim to be like here in Lawrence County. But without further ado, Billy Dunlap, I'm sure he'll introduce himself again. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Like Amanda said, Billy Dunlap. My full-time job is Chief Tourism Development Officer at One Spartanburg. So we are the destination marketing organization for Spartanburg County. I moved to Lawrence in 1992 with the Lawrence YMCA, and we've been here since then. So have deep ties in this community. So tell you a little bit about my background. So owner of Dunlap Media LLC. We're the publishers of GoLawrence.com and GoClinton.com. I can't believe it, but July 23rd we'll celebrate 16 years in business in Lawrence County. Started in 2007. And our focus at that time, and this will really kind of go into what I'm going to talk about today, our focus at that time was, in 2007, there was not a media outlet in Lawrence County that produced news on a daily basis. So you had, radio did kind of Monday through Friday, newspapers did at that time either Wednesday and Friday. So that was our goal, was to do news 24/7, 365 days a year. We've done it for almost 16 years. So from 2018 to 2022, I was the president and CEO of Visit York County in Rock Hill, which was the destination marketing organization for York County. And since July of 2022, I've been the Chief Tourism Development Officer at One Spartanburg. So, give you a little bit of a snapshot of One Spartanburg Inc. So One Spartanburg Inc. is the Chamber of Commerce, Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Economic Development all in one organization. So think about this organization, LCDC, and then the tourism organization all combined together. So that's what One Spartanburg does. When I went to Spartanburg in 2022, you know, living in Lawrence, I kind of had an opinion of what Spartanburg was, and to me, Spartanburg was a sleepy little textile community that had the beacon. You know, that's really kind of what everybody. It's funny. Nobody in Spartanburg eats at the Beacon, but it is one of when we bring in travel writers, that's all they want to focus on is the Beacon. So it's a little bit interesting. But to give you an idea, Spartanburg has led South Carolina in economic investment for the last 2 years. So if you think about Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, Rock Hill, you know, Myrtle Beach, Spartanburg has been #1 in economic investment over the last 2 years. Right now, there's about almost $1 billion of investment getting ready to go in downtown Spartanburg. That's getting ready to, so we announced we are getting ready to build a brand new minor league baseball stadium right in downtown. Around that will be an entertainment district. So think about kind of the Battery at Truist Park in Atlanta, very similar to that. There is an 11-story tower and 2 7-story towers getting ready to go. The M. Peters Group is getting ready to build those in downtown. There's a new city-county complex. They're building, if you've been to Spartanburg, there is a huge county courthouse that's being completed now. So a lot going on in Spartanburg. So I know when you live here, a lot of times you just think about Greenville, and that's kind of where you go. But get on 26 and go up to Spartanburg. You'll be pleased with the dining experiences and things like that. So that is my commercial for Spartanburg. So topics for today. So we're going to talk about kind of marketing objectives. We're going to talk about marketing segmentation. We're going to talk about kind of what a value proposition is, how you position your brand, kind of what the journey of your customer is, how they get to you. We're going to talk about the marketing mix of what you've got to choose from. So to give you an idea, when I started Go Lawrence in 2007, if you were buying media, if you were wanting to advertise at that time, you had billboards, newspaper, radio. That was it. Because when we started, Facebook had just started. Twitter wasn't a thing, Instagram wasn't a thing. I think MySpace was probably a thing. I don't even remember back that far. But you've got a lot of choices now. How you measure your success, what your local marketing options are, and I'm glad we have a couple in the room today. And then what some other marketing avenues, some kind of non-traditional things. We'll talk a little bit about that. So you'll see throughout the presentation that just about everything I've got is in the form of a question, because what I want to do is kind of get you thinking about things that you may not have thought about. Because as a small business owner, I've been there. I've been there from the very beginning, you know, running a business. And the good thing for me is I was able to not really step away, because I touch Dunlap Media every day, but also my children are now involved in it. So all 3 of my children are involved in it. So I like that, but it's tough to run a business. It's tough to be an entrepreneur. It's tough to, you know, Amanda's been there. You know, when you go through times where you sweat being able to pay everybody or do everything else that you want to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about those things. So marketing objectives. I know a lot of times we think about marketing, and marketing seems to be the last thing. All right, we're gonna pay the utility bill. We're gonna pay our staff. We're gonna buy all of our products, our inventory, and then whatever we got left, we're gonna do some marketing. Well, marketing, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a plan on how you're going to reach customers. You've got to figure out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are, and what your threats are. You know, a traditional SWOT analysis. I know Amanda said you guys do that after all of these. So you have to have a plan. You have to define your goals. You have to understand who you are. You know, so CrossFit in Clinton is different from CrossFit in Greenville. It's different from CrossFit in Anderson. So you have to understand who you are and understand what your opportunities are and what your limitations are. Establish some measurable KPIs, some key performance indicators. What makes you successful? When you do something marketing wise, what makes it a success? So look at defining some measurable KPIs. Understand who your audience is. I always tell this story, and I love Ronnie Campbell to death when Ronnie owned the Capitol. But when Ronnie first started, he would always advertise in the newspaper. And I love Jimmy Brown to death, and the advertisers, they're all great friends of mine. And I will promise you, I will never say anything bad about any other media outlet, because I don't want them to say anything bad about me. But understanding your audience. So I used to go to Ronnie and say, okay, Ronnie, who's your audience? He'd say, oh, they're middle school and high school kids. This was when he was doing movies. You know, that was the thing to do on Friday night, Saturday night, was go to the Capitol if you were a middle school or high school student. And I said, well, Ronnie, do you have kids that are that age? And he said, no, but I've got some grandchildren. I said, well, you know, you're spending all your money in the newspaper. Do you actually, and this was several years ago, I said, do you actually think that those middle school and high school students are reading the newspaper? I said, that's not your audience is not looking at the newspaper. So why would you spend money in the newspaper? So understand your audience, understand how they're consuming media. And then once you know all these things, then solve the problem. Figure out what your plan is. So marketing segmentation. So who is your customer? So understanding who your customer is, you know, and I'm gonna give you some experiences that I've had. So go Lawrence and go Clinton, everybody in Lawrence County is our customer. So there's not really any segmentation. At One Spartanburg, our customer is anyone who could potentially come to Spartanburg for anything as a visitor. Everyone in this room is a potential customer for One Spartanburg. So who is your target audience? So identify not only who your customer is, but who you want your customer to be. So and I keep using CrossFit because Janice is right in front of me. So, you know, CrossFit has got a pretty tight demographic on who they're going after. So she's got a pretty tight target audience. But that doesn't mean that she may do a program for seniors. She may do a program for youth, for children, that may lead them into being a lifelong CrossFit customer, CrossFit user. So figure out who your target audience is. This is a key. Understand who your competition is. Because by understanding who your competition is, you don't want to do the same thing that they do. You want to differentiate yourself somehow. So Brenda Stewart is a competitor of Go Lawrence, but a friendly competitor, right? And Jen Williams is a competitor of Go Lawrence from an advertising perspective. But everybody's got their different niche. Brenda does things a little differently than we do. We do things a little differently than the advertiser does. The advertiser does things a little different. You know, everybody's got, you can't do the same thing. So know who your competition is, and then figure out how you differentiate yourself. And I'll give you a prime example of that. So when we first started Go Lawrence, we were very heavy in sports. We covered a lot of sports. That was kind of our thing. Well, fast forward, and this goes to being able to really evolve yourself. So fast forward about 12 years later, this market has, so if you think about a high school football game on Friday night, you've got radio there, you've got 2 newspapers there, you've got Monty Dutton, you've got potentially Go Lawrence, so you've got potentially 5 people covering a sporting event. Well, do you need 5 in a small community like this? Do you need 5 people covering a sporting event? When you go to some communities and they've got nobody covering a high school football Friday night. We've got 5. So what we did was we kind of backed out of sports, and we started doing some other things and tried to do some other things better, because there were 5 people providing the same service. So you're segmenting your audience. So same thing here. If you've got, know who your competition is. Know if you've got 5 people selling the exact same product that you're selling, then you need to differentiate yourself and how to make yourself unique. So what are your customers missing? What's not available? All right, if I'm a shop owner and I'm looking at products, and let's say the Yeti rep comes in to see me and they want me to sell their product. Well, if there's 5 other locations in the market selling Yeti tumblers, do I really want to be the 5th? Or maybe I go find a product that nobody else is selling, and figure out what's missing in the market. That's the story of Go Lawrence. What was missing in the market at that time was someone to produce daily news. So we filled that need. And then kind of do a market competitive analysis. And that goes back to understanding what the market looks like. So value proposition. This is what makes you who you are. Why people should buy from you. 1, you have to make it attractive to customers. When Hanvey Jewelers puts out their rings in the morning, they're not just stacking them up. They want them to look presentable. They want them to be beautiful. They want them to capture your eye when you come in the door. So make it attractive to customers. What is your hook? What makes you different? And then why buy from you instead of the competition? That's a simple statement, but why buy from me versus the competition? So brand positioning. So this is understanding your brand. And someone might say, well, what is my brand? Well, you have to identify what your brand is. You have to identify what makes you unique. Because think about when you see the Pepsi logo, it doesn't need to say Pepsi below it. You know it's the Pepsi logo when you look at it. When you see the peacock, you know it's NBC. You don't need them to tell you it's NBC. So what do customers associate with your brand? Do they associate good things? Do they associate bad things? So understanding what your brand is and understanding how customers relate to that brand. So how is your brand perceived by customers and potential customers? So understanding that of what your reputation is in the community, because your reputation is your brand. So if I'm just picking the clock, this is just a random example. So let's say I'm the Clock Restaurant and I've had a series of bad reviews and people got on social media and they start talking about it. And then that leads to more people talking about it. Well, that affects your brand. So now think of the perception. So let's talk about Garcia's. And I haven't been yet, but when I look at social media, I see a lot of positive comments, but I also see some negative comments. But I also don't see them responding to the negative comments. So they're kind of leaving it to social media to determine what their brand is. But you can't, if you're dependent on social media to determine your brand, you might as well lock up the doors right now. And so understand how your brand is perceived. Now, the people I've talked to that went there, hey, the food was great. You know, the first week, yeah, it took an hour to get your food. But, you know, one thing I've learned about Lawrence County, if you open a restaurant, the first week, you're gonna be swamped. We're the only place that built a Denny's and you had a 2-hour wait the first week that Denny's was. Everybody in this building's been to Denny's. Why do you think the Denny's in Lawrence is gonna be any different? Some of you probably don't even realize that Denny's was actually in Lawrence at one time. But, you know, understanding how people perceive your brand. And how do you defend your brand? Because you have to defend it. If people are, Google reviews are critical. They are critical. And when I look at a business that I want to go to that I've never been to, so I needed my truck fixed, and I needed someone in Spartanburg to do it. I've never had anyone in Spartanburg fix a vehicle. So first off, I looked to see who was a chamber member. That's what I have to do now. Don't you appreciate that? Then I had to do I asked around the office, but then what was the next thing I do? I went to Google to look at their reviews. But what I appreciate is when a business owner defends themselves to a review. And I'm not saying defends themselves as well, we didn't do that or that wasn't, but understanding that people are going to complain. That's just the nature of who we are today. But understanding that, and I'm not talking a generic response that if you look at every response on Google, they're all the same. I appreciate somebody that goes in and actually answers, that actually gives a response. Because that shows me that you care. That shows me that you're defending your brand. Because if I look at Google reviews and I've got negative comments, I'm going to answer those negative comments because I don't want those negative comments to breed other negative comments. So defend your brand. So the customer journey, you know, how they get to you. Understanding how a customer gets to you. Now, if you're a brick and mortar storefront, then you've got to think about where you're located. You got to figure out, okay, is parking convenient? You know, that's a discussion that we had when I was in Rock Hill was, you know, as Rock Hill grew, you couldn't just pull up to the front of a business and park your car and get out and walk 10 steps into the business and 10 steps back out. Sometimes you had to go to a parking garage. Oh, people in Rock Hill, you would have thought you killed them when they had to park in a parking garage. But you go to Greenville, where do you park? A parking garage. You go to Columbia, where do you park? A parking garage. So understanding how they get to you, understanding that, you know, on the Go Lawrence site, we don't have a physical office. We work remotely. We used to have a physical office. So if they want to get to us, they have to either email or call, because there's not a physical location that you can go to. But understand how a customer gets to you and how you relay that message. Make it easy. I'm saying this before I even click it. So make it easy to get to you. Don't make it hard. You know, and I'm giving you some insider trading here. So on Go Lawrence, there's not a phone number anywhere on Go Lawrence. If you want to reach us, you have to email us. And some people might say, well, you know, that's not very customer friendly. Well, if you're in the media business, the phone calls you get are ridiculous. 1 out of every 10 actually make sense. So I don't want people to call. If you want to get a hold of me, it's a good thing about a small town. I guarantee you probably 3 or 4 of you in this room have my cell phone number. So you can ask somebody if you want to get to it. But make it easy to get to you. If you're wanting to be who you want to be, you got to make sure that people can get to you. Now, how do you reach your customers? Do you reach them through email? Do you reach them through word of mouth? Do you reach them through social media? Do you reach them through, you know, whatever? Do you send note cards? However, do you reach your customers? But understanding that whatever you feel is good, be good at it. Don't just do it because you have to do it. Do it and do it well, because customers will appreciate that. Now, when they come to you, especially digitally, and we're going to talk about digital media here in a few minutes, but if you've got a website, make sure it's current. Make sure it's up to date. You know, at One Spartanburg, we're kind of in the middle of doing a new website. So I'm not real keen on sending people to our website right now because it's not that great. You know, we're doing some other things. But if you've got a website, make sure it's up to date. If you don't have a website, make sure you have a landing page. Now, somebody say, well, what is a landing page? That's just a one-page spot that has a URL that people can go to. Have a landing page. Have some kind of digital presence. And if you don't have any of the first two, make sure you have a social media page, and make sure that you're actively utilizing it. Make sure that you're keeping up with it. Make sure that the content is current. You know, to me, if I had to rank those 3, the social media page would probably be last. Now, you might think that that's crazy, but to me, I'd much rather have a website or a landing page where I can truly tell my story, where I can truly promote my brand, tell you what I have to offer. Social media doesn't really give you, social media is more of an interaction. It doesn't really give you that. But social media is important, but it's not, that shouldn't be the main thing that you've got out there. So, marketing mix. So, how to promote your product. So, we're gonna look at just different ways of how you get your product out there. All right, the most important question, what is your budget? That is something that you need to develop. You need to devote funding to marketing on some level. Because if you open your business and you just let it sit there and you expect people to find you and come to you and whatever, it's not gonna happen. So you have to have some kind of budget that promotes your business. Then you have to know where your customers are, how you get to them. Understand that. So, ways that you can do that, advertising. I put that first because that's my thing. That's Jen's thing. It's Brenda's thing. Word of mouth. Word of mouth works positively and it also works negatively. So you have to understand that word of mouth can be very good or it can absolutely destroy you. Press releases. I know I don't speak for any or for all media, but if you send me a press release and it's somewhat newsworthy, I'm probably gonna publish it. And you might say, well, why would you publish it? Well, I need news 365 days a year. There's not that much that goes on in Lawrence County that deserves 365 days a year. But that's what we do. So press releases, the bigger markets you get into, the press releases are less important. Smaller markets, press releases are important. So if you're launching a new product, if you're moving locations, if you've got something that you think is newsworthy, put together a press release and send it out. I'll publish it. Brenda will probably publish it. You know, the newspaper may not, but that's a good way to do it. You know, when you get into a bigger market, we don't really do a lot of press releases now. We do more proactive to where we're reaching out to journalists and reaching out to people to kind of tell them the story, to get them to cover it. Social media is important, it is, but don't let that be your only source of marketing, because that's putting you in a very narrow trough that is not allowing you to reach your full potential. Search engine marketing, you know, Google AdWords, making sure that when, you know, if I sell Yeti tumblers and somebody searches Yeti tumblers in Lawrence County, I need to make sure I'm at the top of the list. So I need to make sure that my website is optimized to do that. I need to make sure my keywords are up to date. I need to make sure that everything I'm doing from a search engine marketing perspective is on target. And then digital marketing, you know, everything that falls under that, whether it's email marketing, social media, really everything that goes into digital marketing. And then make sure it's trackable. So this drives me crazy on a daily basis, because and I'll just give you an example of Go Lawrence. So if you run an ad on Go Lawrence, we sell by impressions. So impressions is how many times your ad is seen on that page. So if you buy 80,000 impressions, we're going to guarantee you that your ad is shown 80,000 times when someone looks at that website. So that's trackable. So we can tell you how many times your ad was seen, how many times it was clicked on. So that's trackable. There's some media out there and some things that you do that you can buy that's not trackable. You're just kind of throwing that line out there and hoping you catch something. Well, do things that you can track. Do things that you can know what your return on your investment is. You know, just like when Jen sells a billboard, I know she's saying that this many people drive by that billboard every day. That's trackable. That's a tangible number, versus something that you might throw out there and you don't know what kind of return you're getting on it. So I'll give you another prime example. So at One Spartanburg, we spend about $500,000 annually on marketing Spartanburg as a destination. So when we do a traditional print ad in a magazine, so let's say it's Garden and Gun, and they say that, okay, 100,000 people get this magazine every month. Okay, 100,000 people see the magazine. So 100,000 people are probably seeing my ad. But how do I know that those 100,000 people are coming to my website, or coming to my social media page, or coming into my store, or into my restaurant, or reaching out to me to buy real estate? You know, how do I know that? Well, I don't. So when I put that out there, I'm just throwing it out there and hoping I get something from it. So to me, make sure that your media is trackable. Make sure your media buys are trackable, that your marketing is trackable, because that is important. And Amanda and I were talking about this earlier. So we use, at One Spartanburg, we use mobile location data. So those of you who don't know what mobile location data is if you have one of these, we know where you're at. Now, if you might say, well, I've got my location services off. All right, we still know where you're at, because if you've got apps on your phone, you're being tracked through those apps. And so everyone in here is being tracked to some extent. Now, everybody says, well, that's very big brotherish. Well, yes, it is. But what it does is it tells us who is coming into the market. So we know that in a given time period that this many people from Charlotte came into Spartanburg. We know where they went. Now, we don't know their name, we don't know their address, but we know their device originated in Charlotte. It came into Spartanburg. While it was in Spartanburg, it went to Lyman, it went to Westgate Mall, it went to the gas station. We know when a credit card was swiped, we know how much it was for. So that's all information that helps us make better decisions. So when we talk about making sure it's trackable, that goes to all of that as well, because we know that people that come into Spartanburg, we know that our top 5 markets are Charlotte, Greenville, Atlanta, Charleston, Asheville. So from a marketing organization, what does that tell us? That tells us that customers are coming from there. So when we're spending marketing dollars, where are we going to spend marketing dollars? In those markets, because we know people are already coming from there, so we want more people to come from there. We know that when people come into Spartanburg, that the group that spends the most money are people from Columbia. So guess what? We do a ton of marketing in Columbia, because they're second on the list as far as number of people that come, but they spend the most money. So it's important for us to know that. So that goes to being trackable, make sure you're making informed decisions. We could just say, well, hey, I think a lot of people from Charlotte come to Spartanburg, so we're gonna buy TV and radio and Pandora and everything else in Charlotte. But if we don't have the numbers to back it up, we're just taking a guess. So understanding who your customer is, where they come from, what they're doing while they're here, it's all important stuff. Now, how do you measure your success? What makes you successful? CrossFit, for them to be successful, people are coming in and paying money every month to go through CrossFit. If I'm the president of the YMCA, I'm successful by how many people come in the door, buy memberships, how many people go to child care, all of those things. So understand what makes you successful and understand how you get there. Because when you figure out what makes you successful, now your job is to get there. And then once you get there, your job is to stay there. So all of these things fall into that. How do you measure it? Are you using Google Analytics? Are you looking at if your success is based on how many people come to your website, how are you measuring it? Are you using Google Analytics? So make sure that you know how to measure it. So what is a failure? So I can tell you what a failure is. So when I did Go Lawrence and Go Clinton about 2010, I thought, okay, it's time to expand. So I did Go Simpsonville and Go Malden. If I had it to do over again, I would have done it differently. Because here, Lawrence and Clinton, again, like I told you, at the time, you had a certain number of places that you could buy media from. There were about 3 or 4 at the time. So we had a pretty good chance of getting you. So we went to Simpsonville and Malden and did the same products. Well, when we got to Simpsonville, so in Simpsonville you had the newspaper, you had radio, but you also had WYFF, WSPA, you had billboards, you had, they had 10 to 15, and this was even before digital. You had 10 to 15 choices of who to buy advertising from. So how do you differentiate yourself? So after about a year, Go Simpsonville and Go Malden both failed because we couldn't generate enough revenue. So understand what a failure is. Understand what makes you not be successful. So local marketing options. So if you're, by being a business owner in Lawrence County, here's your choices. And I may have missed somebody. If I did, thank God they're not in this room. I appreciate it. But every one of these has a different demographic. Yeah, Brenda, make sure you get that, especially down here on the bottom.
That's what I'm focusing on.
There you go. Even though I didn't put that, whatever bar that is right there, I didn't put that there. That's something on the screen. But everyone has their own demographic. The advertiser reaches about 3,000 readers a week. Chronicle reaches about 1,500 readers a week. WLBG has got a very strong demographic on who their customer is. The great thing about Jen is she's got everybody that drives a car. That's.
Jen, tell him what yours is a little bit different than.
Mine are internal screens, like TVs and businesses, not outdoor billboards.
Okay,
But that's
perfect.
So like when you're working out in the Y, there's
Gotcha.
a screen and it's
Gotcha.
doing ads, so it's
Gotcha.
like
I
internal
apologize.
billboards.
I got you. I apologize for that. So WPCC, I wish Pat was here. Pat's got a very unique audience. Brenda's got a very unique audience. So understanding who all of these are and what their reach is, because if you're looking at a certain demographic, Go Lawrence may not be your choice, but another one may be. So understand who those local outlets are and what they can provide. So this is one of the key slides that I really wanted to talk about. So these are other avenues. These are non-traditional avenues. So content marketing. So we do a ton of this at One Spartanburg. You may ask, what is content marketing? Content marketing is putting together a piece of content like an article or a press release or something like that tells a story, and it goes on your website. So give you an example of a piece of content marketing at One Spartanburg is top 5 ice cream shops in Spartanburg. So we write a story on the top 5 ice cream shops in Spartanburg, we put it on our website. Then we do marketing to drive people to that piece of content through social media, through ad buys, through a lot of different things. But having that content there, that's why a lot of media outlets, I was on the Post and Courier the other day and I saw it looked like a story and it talked about visiting Savannah. Well, it was sponsored content. It was sponsored content that Visit Savannah had purchased on the Post and Courier, and when you clicked on it, it went to a story that told you about all the great things about Savannah. So that's that. Blogs, very similar, but they have to have a spot to land, so they have to be on your website, or you can create a site that's about blogs. If you're an expert in a certain field, in your field, blogs are excellent, because it allows you to qualify yourself as an expert. And then if you qualify yourself as an expert, and then you have a business that backs it up, then that drives people to that business. So blogs are important. I'm a huge fan of podcasts. Everybody and their grandmother has a podcast now. But if you're interested in a topic, podcasts are very good. There's a few people in this market that are doing podcasts, not a lot, but even in the travel, in the tourism space, there's a lot of podcasts, and I can go kind of pick and choose who I want to listen to. So same thing, that brands you as the expert. That brands you as the person that you're the go-to for that information. Newsletter is what it is. Email marketing, kind of the same. I know we do an email every morning of news. Brenda does one every morning that puts news out. So having an email list is good, because it puts it in their inbox. You got to put it at a strategic time when they're going to see it. Social media marketing, that's a huge thing now. But understanding how you do it and how you track it, that's important. Video, YouTube, you can do a lot of things there that kind of brands you as the expert. And then influencer marketing, we do a ton of that in Spartanburg. That's bringing in experts. So we've got a person coming in next week from Nashville. She is a travel writer. She has about 20,000 followers on her social media channels. And she travels around, and she's gonna spend 3 days in Spartanburg, and we're gonna immerse her in Spartanburg, and then she's gonna go back and she's gonna write a series of content based on her trip in Spartanburg. She's from Nashville. She's got a great following in Tennessee. So our goal is her reach is now going to tell everybody about Spartanburg, so they'll now come to Spartanburg. So influencer marketing, finding someone who has a large social media following that is tied to your customers, influencers would be a good way to go. All right, what questions?
Do you have a format for your press release on your page? Or you just go for the basic?
Press releases are just, they are what they are. I mean, they can be as basic or they can be as detailed as you want them to be. As long as they're, I give Musgrove Mill State Park, or the park, they do a press release. We get it about every 2 weeks for a ranger-led hike. And it always says the second Saturday of the month, they're gonna have a ranger-led hike. Never in the press release does it put the date. So I always have to put the date in. So make sure that you always have all the important information. But press releases are, They can be whatever you want them to be. Trust me, we get some terrible press releases. But, you know, we just have to edit them and get them on there. Is question back there?
If you had $1,000 for marketing, how would you divide that between all these options?
I'd probably just spend it all with Go Lawrence. I had to do it at least once. No, a lot of it depends on, it depends on who your customer is. You know, if your customer is if your customer is high school students or middle school students, then probably social media would probably be a key way to do that. You have to go where your customers are, you know, where they're at. You know, if you want to, you know, if you're trying to reach 35 to 55, then you've got certain places in the local market that you would spend your money. But a lot of it just goes to what, you know, everybody's got a different demographic. So understanding what those potential marketing options are is the first step. That goes back to my Ronnie Campbell buying newspaper. You know, understand who your customers are, and then understand who in the market reaches your potential customer. There's no magic bullet. But do it, but then be able to track it. That's the biggest thing. You know, if you're tracking it by number of people that walk in your door, then that's a good way to track it. If you're tracking it by how many people come to your website, that's a good way to track it. But just make sure that you're tracking it somehow.
My company has a unique perspective because I work for Roper Staffing.
Okay.
And we have tripled our advertising budget for recruitment, trying to get people in applying for jobs. But we're also talking about the perspective that we need to drop some money into trying to recruit clients. So, in your opinion, if I'm trying to recruit clients into my business for me to go staff for them, what avenues would you suggest for that?
If you're looking for clients, I think any local media that has a broad scope that reaches a lot of people, I think the chamber would be a key piece. Anybody that's tied into the business community. I mean, those would be, you know, probably some email marketing would be, I think, a key piece there as well. And, you know, if a lot of that is just probably what you're doing now, is just a lot of one-on-one. It's a ton of one-on-one, but you have to, so the staffing agencies that advertise with us are all looking for people. That's what everybody's doing. But we don't have anyone that is looking for clients. So I think that's an interesting, because it's kind of the chicken and the egg, because you have to have one to have the other.
And like I said, our budgeting for our recruiting is, since COVID, it's just been
Right.
awful. I mean, we've tripled it, since 2019. So we're getting the people in to apply. However, now I'm wanting to look at a different perspective because, you know, I knock on doors, I cold call, I do everything the old school way, which has been beneficial, but we all know that environment is changing.
Right.
So we need to be able to ebb and flow with what our environment is, what our climate is, what our culture is. So that's why I was wanting your perspective on that.
You know, I think for reaching clients, I think LinkedIn is a huge tool now. In Spartanburg, we're a LinkedIn builder, and so any job that we posted, we're actually providing that service to some of our clients now. So I've got a ton of restaurants and hotels that are looking for people. They're actually posting that through our LinkedIn now. So that tool is out there. But just, you know, I would look for the media that reaches the most people. That's the biggest, because you're wanting to cast a pretty large net.
Well, and my contact people are HR directors, presidents of companies, CEOs, those kind of things. And I just think because there's not a lot of staffing companies that are doing that from that perspective.
Right.
We would be coming into, and we have 3 offices in the upstate, but we would be approaching that in a different manner.
Mhm.
So, and that's what I'm wanting to accomplish.
Yeah, and the ones that we deal with, they're all facing the same battle. You know, they want new clients, but some of them are afraid to get new clients because they're not sure they can fill the jobs. So it's like I said, it's a chicken and an egg thing.
Well, right now, because of the amount of money that we've pumped into our territories, the people coming in seem to be coming in very well. It's the clients that need us.
And now you need clients, right?
And, you know, we're a little bit different because we do cast a net and customer service and things that, you know, staffing companies get bad names because it's just, you know, one more coming along, and we try to set ourselves apart from that. So that's why the client perspective is something where we're gonna focus on.
I see that.
I have a question about a landing page. So I have a pottery business, and all of my business is word of mouth, social media. You know, you get something, you call me because you got it, and you that's how, and I think I have like 1,600 followers on Facebook. So how do you get a landing page? Like, I don't know that people ever try to find me.
Okay. So a landing page, first you have to have a URL.
Okay.
So you have to have, because what it's going to do is going to serve as your website if you don't have a website.
Yeah, I don't.
So it will serve as your website. It has to have a place for people to go to. So a lot of times, you know, just GoDaddy is probably the easiest one to use. And you get your URL, and then you could do it's for lack of a better term, a one-page flyer.
So then so I guess my question is, if somebody, like, how would somebody use, like, they just go into Google and type local pottery or something? Like, how, what I'm saying, like, I don't understand how.
Like how people get to that landing page.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so think of it as a website.
Okay.
So if you were promoting a website, how would you do it? You put it on social media, you
Okay.
put it on everything that you send out.
Uh-huh.
You would, you know, maybe you do some email marketing and you send it out that way. There's a lot of options, but treat it just like a website, because
Okay.
for lack of a better term, that's what it is. It's a one-page website. You know, we had Valvoline Express Care, Tony Staten, you know, for years. He's advertised with us for probably 10 or 12 years, but he's never had a website. So we created a landing page for him, which was, we went to Canva, which I know y'all talked about.
Yeah.
We went to Canva and we created basically a one-page flyer that told all the services that he offered. And when you clicked on the ad on Go Lawrence, it went to that landing page. So we created a URL that became that landing page. So, you know, it's just a one-page website.
Yeah.
And it's
And I don't know
very,
if it's
and it's
something
very
that-
simple.
Yeah.
Don't get, you know, when we talk about one-page websites, people think that it's really difficult. Well, I mean, it's not difficult at all.
Yeah.
I
And
think
I
y'all
don't
talked
know.
about Wix and some other things.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's beneficial I maybe have 10 or 15 customers that have come across that don't have Facebook, or, you know what I mean? So that's where everybody,
It's a good way to
Fine.
put out everything that you do. Cause that was one thing that Valvoline, you know, everybody knew that they changed oil, but they do tire
Tires,
rotations,
yeah.
they do brakes, they do, you know, this. Well, you couldn't put all that in an ad, so we did an ad that directed to a landing page, and that's where they told their entire story.
Okay.
Is your Facebook page you or your business?
so, actually, I'm not real good at social media. So I have a personal Facebook page, but I also have a business. But then my Instagram page just has my name. I can't figure out how to change it to say that. But they both post at the same time. And whenever I post on one, like Instagram won't do videos. You can't post them and I don't know if Instagram does videos at all. But they'll kick that back out. So I just post and I think it shows up on my personal and both business. I don't know. I will figure it out.
Yeah, so Laurel,
Okay.
we'll talk with you after.
Yeah.
I was gonna just throw this in, as y'all know, like a part of this program, a part of it is a year with, a year of chamber membership for those of you who are not already members. That also includes our website listing, and you can go in through our program and update your individual listing with like a description of your business, your services, and all of that. So you could use that as your URL and like include it on your Facebook and have it linked into your website listing on the chamber page. And you can list out all that you do.
We'll talk to you afterward, because also you mentioned Wix, but like, if you could almost do your landing page as a Wix website, because it walks you through the whole process of getting your URL and all of that. So it'd be a Wix website, you would just do the homepage and not expand it, but then you would already have it for potential expansion later if you wanted to.
Right.
You know, if you got an intern or something that like really wanted to do website design and you're like, here, okay,
Yeah.
I've already got this, you have fun with it, or whatever it may be, that might be an easier route to go, because it's got templates and it can help you just like plug in the information. And again, it does the steps for you to get your URL.
It's very easy.
It is. It's very
And
easy.
YouTube is your friend, just remember that.
That's
It's
true.
true.
That's what I was gonna say, any questions y'all have, I can definitely.
Oh, yeah, to look
try
up,
to
yeah,
find a
I
link.
Yeah, I use that.
I'm a plumber sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
I do all kinds of things.
There's not media around.
All right, any more questions? All right, I certainly appreciate the opportunity, and reach out if you have any questions. I'll be glad to help you however I can. I've sat in your seat, so I understand, but I do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to, do a group picture really quick. Did you already message Courtney to come do that? Like we did last time, so Billy can be in our picture with us, cause I know he needs to take off in a little bit. He's gotta fly back to Spartanburg, so, no, you're going somewhere else. Anyway, he's gotta go.
I go gabbing. That's
Okay,
it.
that's right, that's right. So, and then we'll take our little break.